I see you've been doing the lore up a bit. I don't like it. So, the reality war. Ooh, this one is long, which it is a longer episode than is standard. Instead of being 45 minutes, I think it's like 65 minutes. And it feels long. Like, I've always said a lot that modern Doctor Who suffers from the 45-minute format, that it needs to be formatted more like Classic Who to give stuff more room to breathe. But the stuff they expand on here a lot of times gets boring, with part of the episode just nearly putting me to sleep. I'm gonna try to tackle this episode in the order of the episode and touch on things as the episode progresses, because this one it's such a convoluted mess. Now, I liked the very beginning when Anita shows back up from the hotel, because I liked Anita. She was one of the best parts of Joy to the World, which is a mixed episode, but I really enjoyed the scenes with her and the Doctor. I think the actress is great. I like her and the Doctor together. And I don't quite understand why she's pregnant in the episode. I don't know if the actress playing her was pregnant in real life, which would make sense why they write some lines in there for that. But if she wasn't pregnant in real life, I don't know why they made her pregnant in the episode. That's just weird. Also, is the father of her baby, does it have the same name as the father of Belinda's baby, or do they just both start with R? I don't remember. I'm not one of these people that can watch the episode 3 or 4 times before I review it. I just cannot do that. I've only seen it once. I thought both of their names started with R, and maybe that's just the case and it's different names. But I liked Anita being back. That was a nice start. It was kind of weird when she's talking about how she's checked on him, and then we get that cut scene of her checking on Matt Smith when he's playing the game of chess. It's kind of neat to see that. But then that's an odd choice if you're going to use the scene from the classic series to be at the scene from Day of the Daleks when the Doctor's being interrogated. I mean, you have 26 seasons of classic Doctor Who to use, and you pick that scene, which, don't get me wrong, I love Day of the Daleks, and I love that they used the version with the updated effects. But it's just kind of an odd choice to me for her to open up, see the Doctor strapped down, and just be like, he's cool. And the Daleks somehow don't notice this door there and this woman standing there when the Dalek goes right by her. It just seems like an odd choice. I was happy to see it. I mean, that is probably the best thing going on in this episode, Anita and Day of the Daleks. And then, of course, we get the scene of her and Rogue, because, of course, we got to shove that in our faces one more time. I really prefer my classic Who asexual Doctor. So we got to bring Rogue back into it again, because Russell's not happy unless he's injecting his politics right in the middle of the story. Right in the middle of the story. He loves doing that. Oh. So, after he's forced his So, of course, we have to have one more bit of that. But, I mean, I guess it gives it a little bit of plot, because I think this is when she realizes if she has feelings for him, it's never going to happen. He's never going to reciprocate those feelings for her. And that allows her to move on. And, of course, she's having a baby with someone else, I guess. I like the way they kind of bring everybody back to the regular world is weird. Her holding the door open does it, and they kind of half remember. Timey-wimey, I'll explain later stuff right there. Finding out that all of the unit people have chips implanted in them, I'm not a big fan of that. Especially big enough they light up when they're activated. That's creepy. That's a huge... Hey, you want to come work with unit? We're going to put this tracking device in you. And when we activate it, you'll say it'll light up. That's just. I have problems with that the episode doesn't seem to have any problems with that. I have problems with that in general, and the fact that the episode doesn't have problems with that. So we get everybody back to their normal selves through, I'll explain later. And it's interesting to learn the Ronnie's plan that she wants to, excuse me, that she wants to bring Omega back. I'm a huge fan of Omega. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do there. I still think Archie is doing a really good job as the Master. And I still like not the Master. Wow, did I say that? Seriously? I think she's doing a really good job as the Ronnie. I like her as the Ronnie. I like Mrs. Flood as the Ronnie. I think they're both interesting Ronnies. And then I like the little confrontation between the Doctor and the Ronnie right there when they talk. And we get a little bit of exposition. I enjoyed that well enough. I think her and Shooty have a good energy and go off each other well. My biggest problem is I feel like the major crux of this episode, the battle between the Doctor and the Ronnie, the Doctor and Omega, is over way too soon. Like, I mean, does that even last half the episode? Maybe half the episode? So we have Ruby teleport in to deal with Conrad. And we have the Doctor dealing with the Ronnie. And so she summons Omega, and we get... I don't know what the fuck we get, but it's not Omega. I mean, that weird CGI effect we get just is not Omega. Which, to be fair, the Ronnie obviously wasn't expecting this either. Even she seems taken aback by what is summoned. And the episode does try to explain why Omega looks like this and acts like this, because he's so caught up in his own madness and megalomania and will, because we all know the only reason Omega is still alive is he's extremely strong-willed. His will is why he exists. And so it makes sense that being trapped in this underverse and he's so full of himself, you know, I should have been a god, that he has kind of made himself into a type of god. And to me, that kind of explains why he's the way he is. So with Omega's personality being what it is, and with the little bit of explanation we're giving about the underverse possibly making his deepest desires and wishes come true, I can narratively see what they're going for. I don't like the choice to do it. I think if you're going to bring Omega back instead of whatever this is that's here for 5 minutes. They don't do anything with him. You could have created a new entity and done that. There's no reason to make that Omega. It's a huge disappointment and a huge letdown, rivaling what we got with Sutekh last year, where you bring back this classic Who villain that's one of the greatest villains the show has ever seen, especially when it comes to not very many appearances. A one-off for Sutekh and only 2 stories for Omega in the classic Who proper show. And then just doesn't do anything with them and actually makes them less from the execution. I was rather surprised to see Archie's Ronnie basically killed so easily. I did love the time ring nod. The time ring being brought back from, of course, Genesis of the Daleks. I did enjoy that, I will admit. And it even looks like the classic one, but not quite as gaudy and cheap. And I love the fact Mrs. Flood got away. I even like her line so much for the 2 Ronnies, because as submissive as she was acting, you kind of felt like she was a bit put out. So I like the fact she gets the time ring and leaves, so Mrs. Flood's Ronnie's still out there. I do love that. But I would have liked to have seen more of Archie's Ronnie, and to be fair, you could still get Archie's Ronnie back. It's Doctor Who. But I was just kind of surprised that the Ronnie was out of the story so quickly, and the fact the Doctor was able... I like the fact he was able to use the Vindicator, but again, the whole thing with the Ronnies and Omega being defeated so easily, and then we run into the second phase of the story, which really focuses on Poppy, you know, fixing everything. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really care about Poppy. I think the little girl, the actress that's playing the little girl, is great. I like her a lot, especially the behind-the-scenes stuff with her is absolutely adorable. I loved watching the behind-the-scenes stuff with her. Adorable and cute. But as a character, I just didn't really care. Now, there was a moment I thought was really cool. I thought it was neat the Doctor was going so out of his way to try to save her. But the bit when Ruby noticed the cloth was getting smaller, and then Poppy disappeared, and then the crib disappeared, I thought, oh, you could do a heart-wrenching moment with that where only Ruby's going to remember her, and Belinda and the Doctor aren't going to remember her. And I thought that was touching and sad, and I was okay with that, but then they have to go through all this to bring Poppy back, and it takes too long, it's not that interesting, and it just drags this episode out and grinds it to a halt for me. I was getting very bored at this point. And it was explained in the behind the scenes that Ruby knows things have changed simply because of the events of 73 Yards, which I feel like the episode didn't convey very well. The fact Ruby knows something's off and nobody else does is because she went through what she went through in 73 Yards. I feel like the episode could have communicated that better. I'm not sure how, but it could have. I also, I loved the line where a few other things have changed, like teal. I wonder if Mavity is back to gravity now. I wish they touched on that, but teal being a different color. But the one thing I will give the episode points on, this meant a lot to me, was that they found out Ernest Borgnine was still alive, because I love Ernest Borgnine. And that's an interesting random choice of an actor to pick, Ernest Borgnine. I wouldn't think a lot of British actors would be familiar with Ernest Borgnine, or British, it doesn't strike me as the person they'd pick. Ernest Borgnine, of course, if you're unaware, was in McHale's Navy, the TV show and the movie. And the younger generation might know him as Mermaid Man from SpongeBob SquarePants. For me, he will always be Dominic Santini in Airwolf. I love Airwolf. The first 3 seasons of Airwolf. Well, let's just be honest. There's only really 3 seasons of Airwolf. We don't talk about that thing they called season 4. But I love Airwolf. I have it on Blu-ray. Typically, I have it out. I don't actually have it out at the moment it's put up because I have so much Doctor Who stuff out. But I love Airwolf. Ernest Borgnine and Jan Michael Vincent. Which, if Ernest Borgnine is still alive, he would be, Lord, like 108 or so? 107, 108? Something like that. He'd be up there. So I like the fact that in that universe, Ernest Borgnine is alive and well, living it up. Because I think he was like 95 when he passed in 2012. I will admit that put a smile on my face. But it's also weird to me how it basically changes Belinda's timeline to where she's a mom now, a single mom. She's not with the dad. So you took this woman who is a hardworking nurse and made her into a mom. I mean, she's probably still also a nurse, but you basically forced her to be a mother, and a single mother at that, because the dad's not there. Something about that doesn't seem right to me. A character, because for me, it altered the timeline, and it altered the Doctor's memories, or he would have remembered her talking about Poppy before. But the way I see it is originally, she didn't have kids, and originally, she lived in what looked like, a flat or apartments or whatever with roommates, and now she's living in a house. I feel like it altered the timeline to make her Poppy's mom, even though Poppy exists in the Space Babies. This is really weird. Really weird how they did this. I do not agree with this decision, because it seems like Belinda didn't have a choice in it. It's really odd writing, and once again drags it down. Also, I don't understand how the Doctor using the regeneration energy causes him to regenerate. I guess he uses too much, but considering how much he accidentally used in Lux, how much of it was forced out of him in Lux, and that didn't cause him to regenerate, but doing this does cause him to regenerate, I need some consistency here. That said, the regeneration energy, I like that it looks different in this. Like when his hand's regenerating and he and there's some smoke coming off. I liked that. The actual regeneration, I don't really care when it's closing up on his face and the face changes. That looks not so good. But I like how the energy looks different, more like electricity or lightning on him. I don't like the part where it shoots out like a 5-way star or whatever, because I'm sick and tired of regenerations being supernovas where they're just all over the place. It's too over. I'm really tired of every regeneration having to top the regeneration before it. It's really annoying to me. But I did like the look of it, the yellow energy, how it looked different than previous regenerations. I did like the fact they did that differently. I will say, I really enjoyed the 13th Doctor cameo in this. It's more proof to me that when you have other writers writing 13, she can be really good. First off, Whittaker is very good here. She really feels like the Doctor here with her dialogue. I do always feel like Whittaker grew into the character better. But just, I don't know, her little bit of whimsy and acting, I feel like she was really dialed in for this scene. I really connected with her Doctor far more than I ever do. And I've talked before about how I tend to like 13 more in expanded media. Short stories, comic books. She's really good in a lot of those. I've read her in other expanded material and really liked her Doctor far more than I did in the show, except for in her best episodes. And I really liked her brief time here. I actually think her and 13 fit each other very well. I did get a little annoyed when the Doctor's looking at the faces and he's like, well, I am the most attractive one. And she's like, well, maybe the most attractive man. I'm sitting there going, really? Really? Because the Doctor doesn't strike me as the kind of person who's that concerned with his looks. Tennant, yes. But most Doctors, no. I mean, Eccleston was just, not bad, look at the ears. Even the 4th Doctor was kind of like, well, the nose is an improvement. You know, he never seemed that preoccupied with how he looked. Well, a noble brow, but not as over the top as this, like with 15 going, oh, I'm the most attractive, and 13's like, well, maybe the most attractive man. I was, That was a little I did like the line when he went, oh, it's you. I expected the other guy. He shows up a lot. I figured he met the first doctor, David Bradley's doctor. It's like that. He shows up a lot. I like the little poking. It's kind of like a meta poke right there. I did enjoy that. But I liked them together. I feel like they had good energy off each other. I actually wouldn't mind a mini-series with 13 and 15 together. And that's not something that was on my bingo card of something I would ever say. But I liked their energy together. I enjoyed their scene together. And I really like 13 with that Tardis. Because I've never liked 13's Tardis. I never got into her Tardis interior at all. It's probably my least favorite Dr. Tardis. But I really like her in 15's Tardis. I kind of wish that Tardis had been her Tardis, honestly. And I love that they got the classic line in there when she's looking around the Tardis. Ah, you've redecorated. I don't like it. I did love that. You gotta have it. I know it's a little fan servicey at this point, but you gotta have it. I was happy to get it. So that was a highlight of the episode for me. The regeneration itself, I didn't really like the callback to Joy to the World, just because, again, I think that could be a bit sacrilegious to some people, with that being the Star of Bethlehem. I do find a little, even though I'm a bit, I'm agnostic myself, but I still find that a bit offensive, and that they shouldn't have gone. So to call back to that, it's a little, although I did love the way he delivers the line when he says, Joy to the World. I love the way he does that line. Excellent performance, 10-10, no notes. The way he says it, the joy into him. In his final words of, it's been a joy, that nice parting words. I like the fact he doesn't give the big speech. Much like I enjoyed 13's regeneration, because she didn't really harp on about it much. I like the fact he doesn't really harp on about it much. And the fact that he made the sacrifice willingly to save Poppy, even though he knew it was going to make him regenerate. That's a very Doctor thing to do. A very Doctor thing to do. I do dislike that we did not get more of Carol Ann Ford. And I'm convinced, I think a lot of us know there were reshoots done. Huge rumors that the Regeneration was a reshoot, that it wasn't originally there. The shot on Disney Plus of the Doctor and Belinda dancing like they're at a party is not in the episode anywhere. A lot of people theorize that's from the original edit, maybe. And that there are rumors going around that maybe Susan had showed up at the end of the original edit, but she got cut out when they redid the edit when Shooty decided to leave. And you're never going to convince me that this was planned, that he was only planned to do 2 seasons. I don't believe that for a second. I know in the behind the scenes he's like, well, we planned this from the... bullshit. Talking out of his ass. You will never convince me he only planned to do 2 seasons. I understand why he wants to leave. He's an upcoming star. He's a good actor, and he has other opportunities he wants to pursue. I cannot blame him for that at all. But don't sit here and, lie to me about stuff like that, because I don't believe it. And so I think maybe we would have gotten Susan in the original ending, but I needed more of Susan, because when you see her in some of her interviews, she's wearing that kind of gray silver trench coat, which to me looks more like a costume she would be wearing in an episode. So I'm still disappointed we didn't get that. I really wanted to see more of Carol Ann Ford, more of Susan. I'm very disappointed we didn't get that in this episode. And then the regeneration. Fuck me. That is so stupid. So dumb. So stupid. Creative bankruptcy. If I had to describe it in 2 words or 1 term, creative bankruptcy. There is no reason to bring Billie Piper back as the Doctor. There are 8 billion people on this planet. And I know not all of them are qualified actors, to be fair. There's a lot of qualified actors out there who could play the Doctor well. Of different genders, of different races. Plenty of people who would make great Doctors. Why bring back Billie Piper? It reeks of desperation. It reeks of desperation. It reeks of the snake eating its own tail, of Doctor Who turning inward too much. I didn't mind it bringing David back, because it was told to us very quickly when he was announced as the Doctor that he was just going to be temporary, that he was getting 3 specials and that's it. And I would be okay if that's the case with Billie. If it's like 1, 2, 3 specials, because maybe they haven't had a chance to cast the next Doctor yet, and she's just there as a stopgap. You know, maybe this is a situation like Romana. Remember when Romana regenerated and she could try on different faces before she settled into one? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's not even a whole incarnation. It's like a half incarnation. Kind of like from the fan film Devious, when we have a Doctor that's kind of halfway between the second and third Doctor, and the actor looks kind of like a cross between Troughton and Pertwee, where he's kind of like a middle Doctor between two incarnations of the Doctor. I would be okay with that. If it's something like that, where she's not a full incarnation, but she's like a transition period for some reason. I mean, it's Doctor Who. You could come up with a reason, let's be honest. I'm not saying Russell's good enough these days to come up with a good reason, because I'm going to be honest. Whatever deal with the devil for Amazing Doctor Who that Russell had at one point, I called this the George Lucas deal. I think that deal is long expired. I'm going to be honest with you. Despite the fact most of season 2 has been good. Not like S tier good, B tier good, but good. I don't know if I trust him to write a good reason for him to have regenerated into her. I did not like that. It felt like a punch to the gut to me. Just creative bankruptcy. Like, I feel like there's no reason to do that. Now, I, like many people, have noticed that it does not introduce her as the Doctor, or even the 16th Doctor, or the Doctor. You know, it has Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and then it just says introducing Billie Piper, and it cuts off. Now, that could just be Russell messing with us, or that could be because maybe she's not meant to be the Doctor, or maybe it's just to get us talking. Maybe Russell's just trolling us. He's like, maybe Russell just likes kicking the anthill, taking a stick, poking the anthill. And I'm going to laugh, Russell, if that's what you're doing. But I'm not going to lie. When I saw that ending, my first thought was Russell T. Davies. And then my second thought was,
you stupid woman.
Yeah, I don't like that choice at all. If they actually make Billie Piper the 16th Doctor, and they make her they give her regular seasons, I think I'm out. I think I'm done. I think that's it. I don't think I can continue, because it's just ludicrously silly and creatively bankrupt. I have no interest. I'm not a big fan of Billie Piper as an actress to begin with. I liked Rose well enough. She's not one of my favorite companions. I thought Series 1 Rose was pretty good. Series 2 Rose, I didn't really care for her, but she wasn't bad. But Billie Piper's acting has just been to me. Now, again, this 20 years on, I'm sure she's improved as an actress. I've never seen the Secret Diary of a Cauldron. I've never seen that or any of her other stuff. So she could have very much grown as an actress, but I was just never sitting there going, greatest actress to play a companion ever. I've never done that. I've never said that. So I don't know if she could pull off a Doctor that would be satisfactory to me. And just, again, there's so many people out there that would make a great Doctor. I don't see the point. So we'll see what they do with it. Again, if it's just a short-term thing, give 3 specials at most. 1 or 2 specials. Especially if it's just 1 special, because it's some sort of transition period. I'm fine with that while we get an actual new proper Doctor. But if they're making her the 16th Doctor, no, that's ridiculous. I think that might be what finally makes me go, deuces, stick with my classic Who Bop sets. That might be enough to completely put me out. My willing suspension to disbelief might be going. So yeah, there's too much going on in this episode. I feel like everything the season had set up with the Ronnie and the ending of Wishworld had set up with Omega gets resolved way too quickly. I feel like all the stuff going on with Poppy is boring and dragged out way too much, and I don't like, again, how they do that with Belinda. And then that ending is just, as much as I love the scene with 13, and I do. I say this as someone who's not a huge fan of 13, but she's great here. And then that regeneration at the end is stupid. Stupid. It's just stupid. Let's call it what it is, stupid. And then this is another time where, much like Empire of Death retroactively hurt The Legend of Ruby Sunday, I feel like how everything resolves in Reality War does affect Wishworld for me, where I just don't get into it. Probably the only 2 bad episodes of the season, I would call, and I do call them bad episodes. I don't think anything this season has been S tier. with the only story really even possibly making it into A tier would be The Well, which I did enjoy. It has problems. I mentioned them in my review, but it's barely getting into A tier. It's either B plus tier or A minus tier maybe, with most of the season being in B tier for me. Lucky Day might be in C tier. I don't know how that one's going to hold up on rewatch. Same thing with the Interstellar Song Contest. I don't know how that one's going to hold up on rewatch. But I like Robot Revolution. Solid B. Lux, solid B. The Well, like I said, B minus or B plus, A minus. Maybe struggling into A. And then the Story in the Engine, solid B. So it's the best. It's the most consistently strong season we've had probably since Series 12, which I enjoyed. Aside from the ending, just Doctor Who is just not good at nailing these endings these days. And Russell especially is not good with season finales, at least not for a long time. His season finales always tend to be a little underwhelming. I think the last time he did a season finale that was not in some way underwhelming for a full season was probably Series 2. And I say this as someone who loves Series 3. But yeah, I just... creative bankruptcy. That's going to be the term you hear me to describe this finale a lot. I wish more had been done with Omega. I feel like they wasted him. I like the fact that Ronnie is still out there, and I love the fact that it's Mrs. Flood's Ronnie. As much as I love Archie in the role, and I would love to get more of Archie. But maybe if Mrs. Flood properly regenerates, she'll regenerate into Archie. I'd be cool with that. But yeah, I guess that sums it sums it up. I'll have to be doing I'll do a season ranking and review sometime soon. But this episode just, I was hoping Russell would stick the landing. I can't even say I'm necessarily disappointed because I know how bad Russell is at sticking the landing. I was just hoping it wasn't going to be quite as abysmal as Empire of Death, which I don't think it's quite as bad as Empire of Death. Maybe close, but I still would say Empire of Death is worse. I do like the fact Mel gets treated better in this episode. And I'm always happy to see Mel again. I feel like Bonnie... I will say this. I think Bonnie's written better in the modern series than she is in the classic series, even though I don't feel like she gets enough to do in both. But yeah, disappointing. Again, I can't even say disappointing because I was kind of expecting it, but still, just not good. The season kind of ends on a whimper for me. And until we find out what they're going to do with Billy Piper, I'm going to be on pins and needles and nervous and have butterflies in my stomach. And I hate that feeling. So I want to know what you think of the reality war. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. I also have a link to my Patreon down there if you would like to support me on that. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, Finn Perkins, and Unknown289. I appreciate their support. As I do the support of all of my patrons, it's very much appreciated, each and every one of you. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. I do have a birthday coming up at the beginning of July. If anyone wants to send me a nice birthday present, that's how I've gotten most of my standard edition sets. Huge shout out to Simon and Colin for those. I also have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there and my Amazon UK wishlist down there as well. Check those out. Most importantly, thank you for watching.